Hello everyone and welcome back to StarLadder. Here's sticking up and back. Whatever. Happy to have you all here today. We're going to go into a pregame show momentarily, and before that I'm going to talk a little bit about what the match is today and what's going on. Of course, my name's Kanaz, and I'm going to be in charge of the stream a little bit today. Sheever, unavailable for the moment as she had a wedding to go to in Belgium. So, you know, maybe slacking a little bit on the job, but it's okay. We still got a good show coming for you today. It'll be me, VirtusPro, and of course K-Poptosis. We're going to be hanging out. Yeah, so I'm going to be running this today. Again, we're going to be going into the match shortly, but just before time, we're going to talk about it a little bit. iCCup against VirtusPro going to be coming up momentarily. And you can see the brackets right here. Of course, iCCup and VirtusPro, this is the loser bracket final match. The winner will be moving on to go up against Alliance tomorrow in the grand finals. It will be a best of 3 match. And before we get started here, I am going to introduce our panel for the day. And I'm going to give them sound while I do it. And it didn't work. Nice. You guys hear me now? Because the cameras did not save.
I don't think I'm on stream.
The cameras aren't saving. I can hear.
A little bit of rejiggering.
Yup.
Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe. Just a little bit.
I think they can hear us on stream. They just can't see us.
Yep, they just can't see you.
Oh, there we go. Hey, stream. As I move around.
Alright. So while I'm fixing this, we can get started so we don't waste any time in case they get the game going quickly. So if you want to start, take it away, Vykromond. Maybe. Good. Yes.
He's telling you to go ahead and start, Vic.
Well, this might be a little bit lagged because, of course, I can't hear Kanaz except from the stream. So, that's fine. Yeah, I heard him just now. It's just a little bit delayed. All right,
Oh,
so
okay.
VP iCCup. This is going to be the losers bracket final. Alliance get a day off. They'll face the winner of this tomorrow in the grand final. Of course, VP defeated iCCup 2-0 in the winners bracket semifinal. That brought iCCup down to the losers. Alliance sent Quantic down to the losers, where I think a lot of people did expect Quantic to take that series out, but they didn't. Instead, it was iCCup who actually 2-0'd Quantic, which was pretty remarkable. And here we find ourselves after VP gets sent down by Alliance. iCCup comes up after beating Quantic, and suddenly it's a lot less clear who's going to take this rematch. This is the first time that two teams in this LAN final face each other for the second time. So let's just go ahead and jump right into iCCup. I feel like they're still the underdogs, still the people that are maybe a little bit less understood, even though their lifetime record against VP is 5-4 in their favor. So iCCup, what are the strengths? What really makes them gel as a team? What works for them? K-Pop?
I think as we saw yesterday, what really makes them gel together is really strong play out of their cores. We saw Jackal just have an absolute field day on Weaver yesterday against Quantic. I think he went like a total of 18-3, I think, in 2 games as Weaver. Did really, really well. We've hyped Resolution a lot in the last couple of days as being a very underrated up-and-coming player for iCCup as their mid player. So I think that's really what's made them stand out. And a player that I hadn't been terribly impressed with in the past that really impressed me yesterday was Mag. Playing a really good windrunner, getting off some really clutch shackle shots, and just playing overall really, really well. And I feel like that's where iCCup has shown in the last couple days. Well, I guess yesterday, because day one they didn't play terribly well against VirtusPro, but where they did really well against Quantic.
Yeah, and it looks like Vykromond is having a little bit of issues with his sound over VC right now, so we'll try and talk about it for a minute while he works on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out the sound.
No problem. We can talk for a minute while you work on that. Alright, so we're going to continue going on here. Let's look at the matchup a little bit more. I can bring up some stats screens for you guys.
Yeah.
Of course, we are going to have VP going up against iCCup. And here we have the players and their positions with the matchups. K-Pop, what do you think about, in particular, Illidan's play over the last couple days? And what's he going to have to do in this game to just maybe have a little bit bigger impact as the game goes on?
I think Illidan's been interesting over the last couple of days. Illidan as a whole has been interesting for me recently, looking at his play, as I feel like he's been very up and down. He's throughout the entire Star Series prelims, he was playing almost immaculately. They went 14-1. He was playing fantastic every game. When he picked Nagashira, they almost always won. But over the past month, they've got about a 50% win rate that's encapsulating the StarLadder prelims. So in games that weren't StarLadder, they didn't perform quite as well. And usually that's due to Illidan maybe trying some things differently, not going too well. He tried Alchemist a couple of times so far in the finals, and it's went relatively well so far. He's actually played pretty well in the last couple of days, even in games they've lost. But I feel like he needs to step his play up just a little bit if they really want to get past iCCup this time, because I don't think it's going to be as easy of a game as the first round match was this time around.
Yeah, I mean, Illidan... we're talking about Illidan. I actually missed the first half of your sentence, and then I caught the latter half.
Yes, we are talking about Illidan.
Yeah, we're looking at the carry matchup.
I mean, when he was in the iCCup VP match, I actually thought it was very crisp, and this is a player who we actually don't usually look to as, oh, this is sort of a source of VP's mistakes. I mean, I figure their overall strategy wouldn't focus so heavily on usually having one carry if they didn't feel that they could rely on him. Whether it's, I don't know, nerves, I don't think he has that much LAN experience relative to, of course, NS and Arsart, who are really, really, really long-time veterans of the scene, but I'm not sure. I feel like in online competitions, we usually look at whether Tame My Wild is able to perform, whether he's sort of dying more than usual, because he has a little bit of high average deaths for mid players, I feel. But he's been really on point. He was actually amazing. I thought he was the best player in the Alliance vs VP series, maybe overall, but definitely on VirtusPro. But yeah, what do you think has been holding Illidan back, and what do you think he can do to improve in this series, Kanaz?
I think one of maybe the biggest things that happened to Illidan these last couple games was just really having trouble with timing his BKB. Particularly in the first game against Alliance yesterday, there were a couple times when it felt like he maybe just should have popped it a little bit earlier, and as a result ended up getting chain stunned down, losing some vast amount of his HP before he was able to have any impact on the fight at all. And then in the last game, he just got caught out initiating effectively without buyback on his very, very farmed Phantom Assassin. And once that happens, you know, if you're down for 70 seconds without buyback, and they're next to basically your base, the Roche Pit, whatever, you end up losing a lot. You give up a lot for that. So you have to be kind of careful. And I don't know if it was just him, maybe the nerves getting to Illidan a little bit, or what, but there were just a couple questionable plays, and it ended up really hurting their team yesterday, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. I feel like Illidan kind of feels like Zenith era Loda to me. Very good at playing aggressive early, not being a passive carry in lane. Still farming up though, still being able to get to the late game with good items and getting kills and being aggressive in lane. But sometimes towards the end of the game, not making the best decisions in terms of when to engage, when to disengage, which hero to target. And that's something I think is just going to come with time. I mean, he's an experienced player as it is, but if we look at Loda's somebody who is still constantly improving as a carry player, and he's been in the scene for how long? Several years. So
although I don't think he wasn't always in the one position on Zenith, right?
No, he wasn't.
3 a lot. Yeah.
He was 3 a lot, but he played. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, no, I agree with you completely. Yeah.
I think I'm thinking more of like early no Tidehunter, because I remember pulling up a stat about how Loda, since like the last couple of months has reduced how many like his deaths per game by like 0.8. Like he's dying almost a full death less than he used to. So he's making a whole lot better decision making. Maybe that is more early no Tidehunter than it is playing for Zenith, because you're right, he did play more than offlane role. But
Yeah, I think I looked at that stat the other day actually during a game. Was that Loda's deaths per game has really dropped, and I think that's coming true in some respect of VP as well. I mean, like I said, Tame Wild used to have like a 5.4 death average on puck, which is huge, and yesterday he just played an amazing puck. It was really good. Even in situations where I think a lot of players would die, he was able to put in a clutch phase shift or move around with Blink very effectively. So I've been talking about Tame Wild because I want to not just the carry matchup, but also the mid. It's the 2 role is TFW and Resolution. So Resolution, sort of a prodigy player for the CIS. So in the Western Europe, we talk about Quakwa, who's I think 16 or 17, and he's very strong.
Right.
Of course,
Really
we have Arteezy, what a player, who is also about the same age, also in high school. But Resolution's no older than either of them. We just don't really talk about him as much. But he's also like 17, and he's really made his mark recently, I feel. Zach, what do you feel about this matchup? K-Pop?
I've always been a fan of Resolutions. I've really, I wouldn't say fell in love, that might be a strong word, but really grown to appreciate his style of play in the StarLadder prelims. I just feel like a lot of iCCup's success depends on how well Resolution does in the mid game. When he is playing Dragon Knight and he gets the first tower really early, if he can get a kill off really easy, that kind of thing, I feel like that is when he does well. They rely a lot on Resolution's early gameplay, and then they kick it back to the other players later. But I feel like Resolution is a huge part of their success.
Do you think that the teams will be picking mid heroes earlier in the draft to try to leverage the strengths of Tame Wild or Resolution? For instance, like I know that they both play Queen of Pain very well. Kanaz, do you think that
Yes.
this matchup matters for the draft?
I think this matchup can come to the draft. If you pick a hero that's really weak in the mid lane, it can hurt you pretty badly with how much they kind of rely on Tame Wild to start snowball in that early game. But VP are well aware of that, and there are a lot of heroes that he can play very well. So I don't really expect it too much for them to just pick something like maybe a Dragon Knight mid and just hope it works out with he gets some farm, or maybe even Magnus nowadays where he can't really get those solo kills the way he used to be able to with the nerf to the RP damage. So they're likely to pick up heroes like Queen of Pain, like maybe even Templar Assassin is a hero that we see Crazy play quite a bit. And I think we can probably count on both teams to pick somewhat aggressive mid heroes.
Yeah, I think so. Do you think that that'll lead to an overall highly aggressive game from both teams, or do you think one team will be looking to be more passive?
With both these teams, I would somewhat expect aggression, but they've both shown in the past that they are capable of picking those more sturdy, resilient, slow-paced lineups. So definitely they could go that route, but I think their typical game plan is to put pressure on early.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Back to talking about heroes to ban out, like how they're going to draft their mid heroes, I could see some Tame Wild bans for Queen of Pain, for iCCup banning Queen of Pain, just because I think I brought up in yesterday's match that Tame Wild has more wins with Queen of Pain than any other player. Like, he's kind of the Queen of Pain in a lot of ways in terms of experience with the hero. Not necessarily the most successful, but he knows his way around Queen of Pain quite a bit. So I could see that maybe being banned. But beyond that, I feel like Resolution has a wide swath of heroes he can play well. He always plays a good Batrider. His DK's been really good this tournament. I said yesterday I want to see his Brewmaster because I love his Brewmaster. So, yeah.
Oh, I guess two-part question to that. So I want to talk Turkey a bit. What do iCCup... So iCCup did get blanked by VP. Did get sent down. Obviously they've been playing better since then. They wouldn't have beaten Quantic if they hadn't, but what has to change? What exactly do they need to do better than they did in the first round, or what can they take from the Quantic games to actually beat VP here? K-Pop?
I think if we compare how they played against VP versus how they played against Quantic, if we take away all extraneous variables, if we just look at how they drafted and how they played themselves and not really at how the other team played, in the first game against VP, iCCup kind of extended themselves out a little bit in the draft. In game one, they went with a Broodmother, Lich, Treant thing, and it wasn't the best thing. They kind of went a little excessive with their draft, trying to make things happen with hero picks, not necessarily going for team synergy as much as trying to get something new, fresh, try to take somebody off guard. And I think they really struggled at that because their execution was not really on point. However, when they played Quantic, they were fine with taking heroes that they were experienced with. They had Resolution on DK mid a lot. Jackal played Weaver both games. This is probably his best hero. He's one of the best Weavers in existence right now. So I feel like that's where they really do best, iCCup does. They're not a team that really surprises people with picks. I think they need to play consistently and play to their style.
Okay, so they'll get their consistent best heroes if they can, just be able to take VP. Kanaz, on the other hand, how should VP beat iCCup? How can they sort of repeat their success, or what can they take from iCCup's Quantic games as a response to beat them?
I think one of the biggest things is for VP to sort of during the draft check on how many cores really the other team is picking up. Against Alliance, they were always running these dual core-ish lineups that had a lot of heroes that were getting a lot of farm, and they were having a lot of success shutting down one, maybe even two of them. But Alliance always had one other one who was getting farm, and VP have been relying on this single core lineup where Illidan's really the only farmer. So thinking about in the new draft in 6.78, if that's what they need to keep doing. If they need to start shifting over to a dual core lineup and maybe trying to give someone else a little bit of the farm, or if the other team has multiple sort of carries, being able to shut down all of them, not just one. Not spent like against Alliance, they pushed Loda into the ground effectively one game. He had absolutely nothing.
Completely.
But Admiral Bulldog was sitting there farming on Lone Druid, pretty much free farm the entire game. So you have to make those decisions, and they have to be aware of that. So watching for the draft, if that's going to be an issue they have to take care of, and figuring out a way that they're going to be able to take care of it.
Okay, so let's say they want to sort of start running dual farmers. How do you think they fit that into their draft? Is it Ginxie Lone Druid more often, or maybe even Tame My Wild, a hero that can sort of take farm? Where would that take shape if they wanted to take that strategy?
I think with how well Tame My Wild plays on these aggressive mid heroes, maybe sort of relegating him to a farming role is probably not what you want to be able to do. He really is able to set the pace of the game for VP many times. You could pick a hero like Templar Assassin that sort of is a core as the game goes on and can still play aggressive. That's certainly a hero that VP have run in the past and have had great success with. But I think maybe looking to the off lane is possibly a better decision. And we could see that matchup. I think Kasi, if he runs things like maybe Nature's Prophet a little bit more often.
He does run a lot of Nature's Prophet.
Yeah, he runs a lot of Nature's Prophet, but they also give him heroes like Darkseer and Batrider quite a bit, where it's like they have some mid-game impact, but they don't really have the same bite as the game goes on as something like a Nature's Prophet can. So maybe going back towards that Nature's Prophet a little bit more often, or picking up heroes like Lone Druid that can also run in that offlane, or even the Weaver that we see Jackal play quite a bit for iCCup. Heroes that just have a little bit more of a bite as the game goes on.
Yeah, and I mean, Lone Druid definitely, I mean, see, I can't remember if he still has the Lone Druid avatar, but for a while he had that Panda cosmetic avatar, because he was playing quite a bit more Lone Druid for a period. They moved away from it, kind of, but yeah, it's certainly something that VP could seek to reinvigorate. One other aspect of the matchup that I think is really interesting, and something that, to me, iCCup will absolutely have to deal with, is possibly the support matchup and a little bit of a gulf that could develop there. So, Arsart and NS are one of the strongest support pairs. When they first started, I was like, they both have really strong, aggressive personalities. I don't know if they'll mesh that well together. But as they've sort of practiced, as they've built up over time, they've just gotten stronger and stronger as a pair. And I feel like they put out just a tremendous amount of positional pressure and good farming capability. You can suddenly be playing against Arsart, and he's doing well, but not crushingly. And then he has Ags or something. Or then NS has Blink and Arcanes out of just brown boots in like a minute, and then you just get crushed. I mean, we saw this in the iCCup series where NS was on Earthshaker, and he just blink echoed to kill one person every single time, and it just completely took iCCup off guard. Yeah. So, how can we deal with this? Is this a matter of always want to fly and we just have to step the game, or can the cores actually do something also? Or do they just have to take a more strategic approach to try to shut down the VP supports? K-Pop?
I think we just stick and always want to fly really do have to step up. I don't think their play is necessarily not good. I don't think they're necessarily poor players by any means. But the support matchup, I think, is the matchup that is the most one-sided here, just due to the experience that Arsart and NS have. Arsart's was on Navi for a year. He's got a championship. He's really experienced. And as you said, you have players like, Arsart too. You're talking about how NS farmed up an Earthsaker. We saw the match about a week ago where Arsart farmed up an Aghanims on Gyrocopter and was just starting wombo combos with Naga Siren all over the map. So I think that is really going to be where we talk a lot about Resolution and Jackal and how they play well. But I think what's really going to be the determining factor for who wins this game is whether or not Weechestick and Always Want to Fly can catch up to the supports for VirtusPro.
Yeah. Kanaz, any other thoughts on the support matchup, tips for iCCup, ways that they can sort of try to change that around?
I think running maybe into the tri-lane with their own tri-lane is going to end up hurting them if iCCup try and run aggressive tri-lanes. I know VP don't really do it particularly often. They like to give some farm more to the VP support so that they can move around a little bit more as the game goes on. And
they roam,
and I feel like maybe VP supports just end up working better together, especially when it gets to that roaming phase. So just being aware of that, the timings that VP like to go with, it's usually, I think, around like 4 minutes, we say, that they end up moving around towards that mid lane, maybe trying to set up ganks there to build an advantage for Resolution.
It's really common.
Yeah, so just being aware of all those timings, and also just trying your best to keep wards in very, very interesting places that can try and spot those rotations. Obviously, there's always a chance that they're going to just smoke up and you'll make it through it, but make them buy that smoke. Don't let them get away with just walking to another lane completely visible.
Agreed. Right.
Sure. And if you're VP, how do you look to exploit that possible sort of support golf? How do you exploit that? How do you use it to win? Kanaz?
If you're VP, I think really strong, picking the supports that we know Arsart and NS like to play and have a lot of success with, that they can definitely get those roaming ganks off very early. Being able to shut down one hero is obviously one of their best abilities. There are almost always some hero on the map that they manage to take almost completely out of the game. Just being aware of who that is, and if they have multiple heroes that you need to focus on, working together to make sure that they can make their presence felt everywhere on the map, not just in 1 or 2 lanes.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And K-Pop, on a strategic perspective, do you think that pushes iCCup to also try to run multiple cores so that the supports have too much work to do for VP? Or is it more about just using Weechestick and Jackal to really... Sorry, Weechestick and Always Want to Fly to really tightly protect Jackal on the carry role?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think we're going to end up seeing a lot more of a core type of hero come out on Mag, and this is why. Recently, the biggest meta that I've seen is developed, like the biggest thing that's changing and developing between teams is what to do with your supports and your carry and laning versus aggressive tri lanes versus safe lane tries. And I think where iCCup has really, really done well, the games they've done well in, is when they pick carries that they can put in the safe lane with 2 supports. They run a safe lane tri lane. But it's a hero that does well solo. You put a Weaver down there. You put someone that's really safe down there as well that can get away if they need to, and allows their supports to go ganking a lot. And I feel like that's really where they've done well, especially against Quantic yesterday. They put Weaver in the safe lane. And you can leave Weaver in a safe lane and it's no problem. He's probably not going to die due to Tsukushi and when he gets level 6 time lapse. So I think that's how they kind of help the golf, and how VP can stop that is just running an aggressive trial, making those supports stay in, pin them down, because Resolution tends to like heroes that kind of stay still. He likes melee mids a lot, so if they can pin in iCCup's supports and keep them from roaming, I don't think they'll be able to come back from it.
All right. So we talk about Weaver a lot. We've talked about Queen of Pain a bit. I want to put you guys on the record, start a little bit of a predictions phase.
Fantastic.
I enjoyed putting everybody on the spot yesterday. We all failed in the VP Alliance series.
Wasn't close.
We all predicted the incorrect score, and none of us predicted the first 4 bans. Although, for the record, I was closest.
With
Y'all
50%.
only got with 50%, 75% in game 2 though.
All right.
They shifted more towards my prediction as the series went on. So, I mean, that's all I have to say about that. But for this game, I want to talk about which single hero is going to be the MVP of the series. Is it Weaver or is it something else? K-Pop, you first.
Oh, put me on the spot here.
Yeah, I am.
If I'm VP, I ban Weaver. I said this yesterday, so I don't think Weaver's going to be the MVP. I think it's going to probably be. I don't like DK as much as most people like him. I think he's overrated. But I feel like in a game like this, if Resolution can pick kind of those greedy melee mid cores and don't get punished for it, then they're going to do well. So I could say if iCCup wins, their MVP will probably be somebody like a Dragon Knight.
Okay.
For
Yeah,
VP,
and
if VP wins, it's going to be Arsart playing a really aggressive support, I think, that gets around and makes a lot of kills, whether he gets on a Bane or a Leshrac or a Gyrocopter that can make a lot of kills early. I think that'll probably end up being the... if I had to pick one, I want to see Arsart. Arsart does a really good... Or NS, actually. NS does a really good support Skywrath. Probably the only good support Skywrath I've seen. So I'm going to go out on a huge limb here and say MVP support Skywrath.
All right. Oh, there's actually a pretty good support Skywrath today in EG Dignitas too. But
That's true.
It is rare.
That's true.
It is rare.
That's true. He's the only person
All
I've seen play it consistently well.
Yeah, I agree. I think you had the stat. We were doing the StarLadder Season 6 regular season, and you were like,
Yeah.
it has like a 15%.
I was like, it's not good, guys.
Yeah.
And every time I brought that up,
they
NS would play it and then win. Yeah. So
K-pop curse.
the K-pop curse, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
If I say
All right.
something's going to be one way, it's almost certainly going to be the other way.
But statistically predictable,
Yes.
it's emotionally certain that it'll go the opposite. All right, Kanaz, what's your hero MVP preemptively?
Nyx Assassin.
Oh.
Nyx Assassin.
Okay,
Ooh.
why?
VP
Why?
does love Nyx Assassin.
I think it's one of Arsart's best heroes.
It's pretty good.
Every time I've seen him played, I've been pretty impressed with the things he's been able to make happen on the map. I think he's a very powerful hero still, even with like nerfs that keep coming, trying to make him less of a powerful hero. I don't know if VP will pick it up. I could look really dumb when it doesn't get played at all, but I think if they go with it, it's going to be a very powerful hero for them to pick up, and will do a lot of work. And like K-Pop was saying, I think their support matchup is very powerful. If Arsart gets a really powerful support and is able to move around a lot, it really opens up the map for VP.
Yeah, and I like how you're playing the numbers, because they might not pick Nyx, but if they do, it's definitely because they have something very clever in mind for it.
Right.
I'm gonna go. I feel like Outworld Devourer is gonna be big.
There we go.
I think VP's gonna win, and I also think that VP is the team that's more likely to run OD, because I don't think Resolution plays that much OD, honestly.
Not really. Not really.
He'll start because OD's pretty friggin' strong. But
he's ridiculously strong.
I think he's such a good hero for VP, and he's such a good matchup against most of the things that Resolution would seek to run. I mean, OD is really good against Queen of Pain. It's pretty friggin' good against Dragon Knight because you can imprison him to the point where he can't breathe fire and he can't farm.
Yeah.
Not if by any means bad against Batrider. He's so utterly strong, and VP. They like the hero because they can also run it in 2 lanes. I mean, they can run it on Airman, they can run it on Tame by Wild. And both ways, I feel like it'll be incredibly strong. It'll help punish, especially if the supports end up under level. Like if VP supports end up higher level than iCCup supports. Nyx Assassin obviously shines in that. So does OD. Because if you have under level int supports where you can actually hit them with the Eclipse and have it do something, you can just blow them up like that.
They're gone.
And then I don't know. I feel like the first ban phase is also going to be a big battleground because these teams have such non-conventional heroes that they like that you want to like pocket ban. I feel like, but you also don't want to. You also want to ban, IO Batrider, all that good stuff. So I actually was going to ask you guys about that. How much room do you think there is in the first phase for bans like Weaver, Tree? Although Tree is more of a standard ban to some extent, but still Weaver, Tree, OD, Naga, is stuff like that. Are we going to see stuff like that first banned, or is it just going to be IO Batrider, Lone Druid, Nature's Prophet every time? K-Pop?
I don't think Trent is necessarily a required ban in this setup. I think for iCCup when they've done well with Trent, it's because they paired up with a Weaver. I think Trent really depends on the heroes around him. He's not necessarily like an insta-pick win hero. He can be an insta-pick win if you have the right strat behind it.
Sure.
But I think if I'm iCCup, I don't really worry about banning Illidan heroes. I might ban Gyro a little bit, but he hasn't done that well since the nerf. He's gotten picked a lot, but he's still not that great. So I would probably I would ban Take My Wild heroes. I would ban Queen of Pain. I would get rid of those.
Yeah.
I would maybe get rid of an Arsark pick if I think one of those supports can really do well against our team composition. And let Illidan go with whatever he feels like, really, because I feel like his strongest heroes are all heroes that have gotten either nerfed recently or he's still trying to figure out. His Naga's good. He plays a lot of Naga, but it's not dominating, really. He isn't that successful with Naga relative to how much he plays it, so I'd let him have it.
Okay. Fair enough. Kanaz, what about you? I'm going to step away for like 2 seconds because I feel like my ambient light's really low, but I am interested to hear what you have to say about this first ban.
All right.
No,
yeah.
It's okay. No, maybe it's fine. I don't know. Now it looks
It keeps like changing. Do you have like an auto thing on?
I must probably, but
Yeah.
we'll just go like this. I'm going to stay stock still for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I think that there's been a surprising amount of Batrider, I think, in this tournament already, making it through.
Yeah.
So maybe a lot of teams are already moving towards this, going a little bit more towards the pocket ban strategy. We've even seen Wisp picked up at least once, I think only once. So teams are letting these heroes through. Are they going to in this series? Maybe Batrider. I really don't expect Wisp to make it through, necessarily.
No.
I think most teams are rather uncomfortable giving up Wisp. Although VP did the other day against Alliance, it obviously didn't work out for them.
Just stupid. EGM, they play a great Wisp.
Yeah, so I think that there is some room for it, and maybe they can move towards, instead of banning out something like Nature's Prophet that sometimes gets banned now early on, or Lone Druid, Gyrocopter, even sometimes Lifestealer is kind of auto-banned in these first for some teams. They can move towards the pocket bans where they just take out maybe Weaver for or VP just bans out Weaver. They're like, we don't want to deal with the Weaver. We know that Jackal plays it, he plays it well. Let's get him out of his comfort zone. We're willing to play against maybe a little bit more powerful of a hero on average, just to break you out of your comfort zone. And that can definitely be a strategy that works on LAN. You're already kind of out of your comfort zone. There's a lot going on.
Sure.
You're live. You're all next to each other. You can see the enemy team, and so maybe just put them where they're least comfortable, and it works out well for you. I think there's room for it.
Right.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think, if you want to take a team out of their comfort zone, we were talking about how iCCup is going to really want to be as comfortable as possible on their best, able to play their best Dota and actually take it out. So as VP, maybe you do try to force them onto more powerful heroes, albeit heroes that they're not as familiar with. I mean, we've seen teams do that. Even that one game Zenith had IG in G1 of the previous season where they didn't ban anything, and they were like,
"Oh yeah,
take your pick, guys." Yeah,
just take it.
That can be a power strategy, and that was a series that Zenith was tremendously disfavored in. They were playing stand-in, and that was a game they won.
It was.
It certainly is something that can work. I don't expect the VP will go for 0 bans, but
I won't say. Okay,
NS
I think
is a troll, but he's
not that big of a troll.
They still
no,
want to
not
win.
as big as SSI.
I think for Batrider maybe the no ban thing is possible, just because if just not banning any heroes, but letting it go through. Because probably not Batrider, but maybe Wisp even. Because I haven't seen Resolution, or not Resolution. I haven't seen iCCup play a lot of Wisp really. So I don't know if they're that comfortable with it. Because I've seen teams pick up Wisp because he was available and then just not do well. You can relocate in and just have your carry die a couple of times because they're bad relocates and you've lost the game.
Like most Eastern teams.
Like most Eastern teams have tried to do it, right?
Sorry.
I wouldn't be surprised if Wisp doesn't get banned, and VP says, okay, if you're not going to pick it up, we might just pick it up ourselves, and we're not going to be the ones to ban it, so you're going to have to, and make them waste a ban. I don't think that's a bad idea.
Are there other heroes like that besides IO?
For some teams, I would say Batrider, but Resolution plays a good Batrider. I think a lot of teams overestimate how good some people play Batrider, because it's actually relatively easy to not be very good at Batrider. I've seen some players really not initiate well, get caught out. If you're playing against an Outworld Devourer, which we could VPC a lot, if you know you're going to pick Outworld, let him have Bat. Let him blink in, let him lasso somebody, and then imprison him, and then he's going to be in there with the rest of the team, and then you're going to kill him after the Lasso's done. He might be able to force out, but then if they've drafted Bat, they're relying on him for their initiation anyway. So if you ruin that initiation, you're fighting 5v5 against a Bat Rider who is not a very good teamfight hero. After the initiation phase, at least.
Fair enough. So whether the series goes to iCCup or whether it goes to VP, obviously either one of them will have to face a well-rested Alliance for the Grand Finals. So, Kanaz, if you're Alliance, do you care who you get? Would you rather it be one of the two teams? And also, what are you looking for from this series? What do you hope to learn to use in the Grand Final to your advantage?
Well, I think in a general sense, VP has had more success than against Alliance than maybe even most other teams. They beat them in StarLadder in the main group stage. They've beaten them a couple times in recent past, so I think you would favor maybe playing against iCCup, but I'm not actually sure how often they've played against iCCup. Maybe K-Pop knows or can look it up. So if they haven't played against iCCup at all, maybe they prefer the enemy they know as opposed to the one they don't.
Repeat that one more time for me?
How often has iCCup played against Alliance, if at all?
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a stat that would be relevant. Yeah.
But you can go ahead.
So if that if it comes to that, I think I would favor iCCup unless they haven't played them at all. In which case, maybe even still you favor iCCup and you just watch this draft. You've been watching the other games here at StarLadder just to get a feel for them, and maybe they're more confident against just the team that is generally seen as the weaker team. Even if they were able to take Quantic, they didn't play necessarily well during this tournament. They were a little uncomfortable. Obviously, they were adjusting to having a stand-in on a LAN event. It's kind of an awkward situation. It doesn't come up very often. But yeah, I think I would be more favored towards playing iCCup if I were Alliance than VP, just in the general sense.
Sure. And what do you look for
Yeah,
tactics
Alliance
from this? Go ahead.
Alliance has played iCCup twice. Once in the Star Series prelims, of course, because every team played each other.
Of course.
And Alliance won, and then Alliance played iCCup in EMS Summer and beat them there as well.
Okay.
So 2-0.
So it seems like a good record to be comfortable going up against iCCup.
Yeah.
As for watching in this, maybe see if VP start trying out a more dual core strategy to try and counter what was going on with Alliance previously. That really feels like it was their downfall yesterday. Is Alliance had more carries, and the games eventually got to the point where having more carries wins you the game. So if they try that, or maybe they just pull out lots of aggression today and figure out a way to shut down in multiple lanes very confidently. If they have new rotations that they're coming out with, watch for those timings, stuff like that.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. So, all right, yeah, I definitely agree. So let's move to the biggest prediction of all, which is the losers bracket final. iCCup or VP? What's the score? And we've been doing like who wins which games. That's if you want to narrow down your prediction even more that way, I'm cool with that too. Kanaz?
I think it's going to be VP 2-0, which means they win the first two games. Third game, that one won't be played.
So bold.
Right. All right, you don't think IC Cup can take a game?
I don't know.
Drill down on that a bit?
It's possible if they play really as well as they were yesterday and VP sort of play as kind of sloppily as they did yesterday. Maybe things will come that way and iCCup's able to take one, even maybe two games, and they take the series off of VP. But the first day, iCCup just really didn't feel like they had that much game against VP. I don't know.
Sure. All right, K-Pop?
I think VP is definitely going to take it, just due to their overall experience. And I'm going to say 2-1, and I even hate saying that a little bit, just because I feel like VirtusPro is chronically underrated, and I'm kind of contributing to that by saying that iCCup could take a game off them. But iCCup has just really impressed me yesterday when they played versus Quantic. I think this game is going to be a little bit more of a litmus test to determine whether or not they were playing that well, or if it was just due to Quantic having some issues, having to play with a stand-in. That was why they did as well. But I think I'm seeing enough out of iCCup. I'm seeing growth out of them. I'm seeing a lot of increased levels of play from them. I think they could take a game off them. If VP slips up in the draft and lets them have a Treant Weaver combo, I could see them taking a game. So I'm going to say 2-1.
Yeah,
I'm going to say iCCup take the second game, is what I'm going to say.
All right. To be fair, I mean, iCCup a pretty underrated team as well. Just remember how many people were complaining very, very loudly about them being invited to the TI3 West qualifier, where I mean, they didn't do great, but they did better than some other teams. They certainly
Yeah.
weren't the worst team there. I wouldn't say they
Nope.
were even in the worst two teams there.
Mm-mm.
So, and they've done well since then as well, sort of showing that they continue to be sort of a stable, effective team. Yeah, I mean, I'm sad Sheever isn't around today for a lot of reasons, but also because she would easily go to bat and say iCCup 2-1 or something.
Yeah.
Because I don't think iCCup can take it. I'm kind of agnostic as to whether they take a game or not. They did play very in form against Quantic, and VP, I was pretty disappointed overall by yesterday. I thought that some elements were amazing, but just the weakness late game is something you don't expect from a team that's been stable, that has been playing a lot of tournaments. You really expect that team to just be able to keep it together late game a little better than VP have been able to. That said, iCCup is going to be able to punish that a lot, not as effectively as Alliance can, because Alliance will just win a team fight against you and take 2 sets of racks, or hey, lose a team fight against you but take a set of racks and you lose the game, as the case may be in certain situations. So, I don't know, I'm closer to VP 2-0, but I could easily see iCCup taking a game. I don't know, I'll just hedge between the two of you, and I promise not to say I was right, because I'm being such a fence sitter.
Okay.
It looks like we're wrapping up, so we are going to go into the game in just a moment. We had to play through the CSGO 1v1, which I didn't know was happening, but it was.
None of us did.
We're just waiting on iCCup to make it. They might have to switch computers for the actual game, but that should be about 2 to 3 minutes, and that'll send us up into the Losers Bracket Final, the second to last series of the StarLadder Season 6 LAN Finals. I know I'm very excited. I think are you guys hyped? You guys hyped for this game?
I'm pretty
I'm
hyped.
excited. I think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be really great if iCCup brings that out the stops and plays really well. It'll be a great series.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think that'll be it for the analyst panel. We'll get started with the game in I think just a minute or two. We've got all 10 players in the lobby. See you guys in a bit, and it'll be Kanaz casting, myself co-casting, and K-Pop doing the stats as the Lord intended.